Hello everyone, Daniel here from the Next Issue Podcast. On today's video, I'll be doing a review for Thor, Love and Thunder. This is the 2022 Marvel and Studios film with a runtime of an hour and 59 minutes. This movie is rated PG-13, directed by Taika Waititi, returning from Thor Ragnarok, written by Taika Waititi and Jennifer Caton Robinson, and based on the Marvel Comics. So as of the recording of this video, the Rotten Tomato score sits at 68% for the critics, 82% for the audience. I lean closer to the audience score. I think this movie overall is very enjoyable. I will go into spoilers later, so you can watch this first part of the video if you haven't seen the movie. And then we'll get into actual spoilers. I will go over the synopsis now. Thor: Love and Thunder finds Thor on a journey unlike anything he's ever faced, a quest for inner peace, but his retirement is interrupted by a galactic killer known as Gore, the God Butcher, who seeks the extinction of the gods. To combat the threat, Thor enlists the help of King Valkyrie, Korg, and ex-girlfriend Jane Foster, who, to Thor's surprise, inexplicably wields his magic hammer Mjolnir. As the mighty Thor, together they embark upon a harrowing cosmic adventure to uncover the mystery of the God Butcher's vengeance and stop him before it's too late. So yeah, that's pretty much the premise. That's what we've seen in the trailers. And if you're familiar with the comics, you kind of know some of these characters, as well as previous movies in the MCU. So let me talk a little bit about some of the high level points of this movie. So this movie is definitely a lot of fun. I will tell you this movie, I think it even leans more into what Taika Waititi loves to do as far as comedy, even more than Ragnarok. So if Ragnarok wasn't your cup of tea, comedy wise, I think you'll probably that'll be the same with this movie, right? I think it'll be something that maybe is not as attractive to you. I'm pretty keen on Waititi's sense of humor, and also Hemsworth is really funny. Like I think he's very comedically underrated. I mean, and it makes sense. Look at him; he's a very handsome dude. He's very strong. He leans into these roles. He's done a lot more action stuff, but when it's time for the comedy, I think Thor's really there. Hemsworth is also there for a lot of the stuff that with the more dramatic pieces here. So we'll go into that in a little bit. Um, I do want to mention the cast, and then we'll get into a little bit more of the stuff, the non-spoiler stuff, and then I'll give you a warning when I go into spoilers. So this movie stars Chris Hemsworth returning as Thor, Natalie Portman as Jane Foster slash the Mighty Thor, Christian Bale as Gore the God Butcher, Tessa Thompson comes back as King Valkyrie, and Taika Waititi as the voice of Korg, who we met in Thor Ragnarok. So yeah, I mean, since we're talking about the cast. Bale's performance to me is the standout of this film. I think he does such a good job in his portrayal of Gore the God Butcher. Now, as far as an adaptation, is it very loyal to the book? I would say the tone and the themes are definitely there. I think it's a little bit different in some aspects of it, especially like the look. If we've seen what you guys have seen, what Gore the Butcher looks like in both the comic and here. But as far as the tone of his performance, the themes, the reasons, the methods behind what he's doing, I think that's all very similar. So yeah, Bale, I think just every scene he was in, I was enthralled, and he's just so good. I am very happy that he took this role. I think Christian Bale, maybe it's at a point in his career where he doesn't want to commit to doing something super big, but I really like that he was tapped in for this role. Now let's talk about Chris Hemsworth a little bit, the titular character. I mean, look, he's been. I can't believe the arc that this character has had over all these years, and I think it just continues to get better. And he becomes a more and more well-rounded character. Like I mentioned, we have the adventures Thor, we have the comedic Thor, we have the more dramatic tones for Thor. So yeah, I think Hemsworth just really nails all that stuff down pat, and I really enjoyed his performance. So very well done. Now let's talk about Natalie Portman. I think she, returning as Jane Foster. I feel like she might have felt like there was some unfinished business with this character, and I'm glad that she returned. And then we get to see her in a dual role as both Jane Foster and the Mighty Thor. I'll talk a little bit more about some of the finer points in spoilers, but yeah, overall, I really enjoyed her performance. And then as well as Tessa Thompson. Tessa Thompson as King Valkyrie. I mean, she's been great ever since the moment when her character was introduced. I think she just kind of she steals almost every scene that she's in, which is great. I think the unfortunate part is that there may not be as many scenes, or maybe she's in this movie. We don't get as much Tessa as we might have liked. Her role in a 2 hour film might have been, and a longer film might have been more. Just a little bit wider of a net. But as far as this 2 hour film, I really think we could have used a little bit more Tessa Thompson. I think King Valkyrie is just a really fun character that also has changed and grown and has a whole story arc behind that we haven't really fully explored. We've seen little glimpses, and it's just very, very much something that we should get more of. I think there would be. I don't know how they would portray this, but it definitely would be like a nice little one shot or a small series or something. I don't know. I think Marvel could figure out a way. I mean, we do it in the comics all the time with these one shots, so I don't see why they wouldn't be able to give us something. But I think that would be great, especially since Marvel has all these platforms. So overall, before we get into spoilers, I think the movie achieves what it wants, and that is to tell you this tale of this. It almost feels like an epic, and the way the trailer framed it, it's Korg retelling the story of Thor. I think that story device that is carried throughout the film, it's very well done. We do have that scene for a few characters, so we'll get in more into that in a minute. But yeah, the tone of the film. I mean, I was laughing at the theater. I was very emotional at some points. Like some scenes just hit very hard, and then I was cheering at some points because it's really really fun stuff happening on the screen. Really cool things. Um, I will let you know this movie does have two end credit scenes, so make sure to stay all the way till the end of the credits. I don't think you'll be disappointed either way. And you should watch the credits regardless because a lot of people work hard on these films. So it's always really nice to see who especially the special thanks section. Really fun to see like which comic creators and everything. It's noted. Obviously, this pulls a lot from Jason Aaron and Asad Ribick's Thor: God of Thunder. But it's always fun to see that. So yeah, overall, I really enjoyed this movie. Right now, I'm thinking this is maybe like a 7.5 out of 10. You can see my final score on Letterboxd. If you follow me, I'll drop the link down below in the description. But yeah, here we go. Let's get into spoilers. I think the some of the aspects of the film that I really, like I said, I really enjoyed Bale's performance all the way. They really bring in a lot of the mythos and the mythology from the books, and I really enjoy that part. There's some things that have changed, but I feel like if you're expecting some stuff in this movie that you don't get payoff, I think there's things we can still do a little bit later on. I think Jane Foster's arc, as you if you have seen the movie and you're watching this spoiler part, you know that she's battling with cancer, and she's at stage 4, very close to terminal, and unfortunately there's nowhere that can help her, which is why she goes out to find Mjolnir. I love the way that the story kind of went back and told us about how Jane and Thor did have a longer relationship than what we've seen in the movies, and I think it's something that was really well done here to kind of catch us up emotionally, like go through the same journey that they've been over, right, when they're actually having a relationship, and then unfortunately they ended up breaking up. But Thor loved, he loves Jane so much that the hammer Mjolnir could feel that, and overall it changed the enchantment to also protect Jane Foster. So that's kind of how they weave in that story. I thought that was really well told. I really enjoyed that piece of it. And like I said, Portman's performance was great. I think anytime that Hemsworth and Portman are on screen, very emotional, but you can really feel like whether it's the awkwardness of like two exes hanging out, or the feelings that they really hold for each other, with the emotional beats of Thor realizing that she's dying, and the sacrifice that she will have to ultimately make at the end. It's all very well done. It's all really cool. I really appreciated the second end credit scene where we see Jane Foster, make it to Valhalla. We get to see Idris Elba back as Heimdall, which is really really cool. So very much enjoyed that piece as well. Now, the one thing I feel there was a few sequences that I feel like went on a little bit too long with the comedy. And like I said, I'm a fan of that style of humor. I love the comedic shorts of that Taika's done before. I love his other projects, especially like what we do in the shadows, stuff like that. But yeah, there was some stuff with Korg where I was like, well, I don't know that we need to focus so much on what's going on with Korg. Some of his stuff was funny, some of his stuff was just maybe a little too long. And then, like I said, the Valkyrie was a little bit more sidelined than I wish that would happen. So I wish I would have gotten a little bit more, instead of some of those really long comedy sequences, maybe shorten some of that stuff up and give Valkyrie a little bit more time to shine. I did enjoy the way everything was resolved. So let's talk about Gore the God Butcher a little bit before we close out. Because before we get into the final sequences, so his he we, you know we open with him. He loses his daughter. He loses everything. He loses his faith in the gods, and then is able to find the Necrosword, which is kind of the thing that is really powering him through all this stuff. Now, the Necrosword in the comics is an ancient weapon belonging to Null, which I'm actually going to do another video all about that. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, this motivation is like an infection that really is eating away also at Christian Bale. Now, his motivation to kill all the gods, he wants to reach eternity to make that happen. Now, we do get to see a lot of the pantheon of different gods at this uh, Omnipotent City, I think it's called. Omnipotent City, I think it's called. Yeah, it's got a weird name. It's like two words smushed together. But that was a fun sequence. I wish we had seen a little bit more. I almost feel like we saw Zeus and everyone else was just like a little cameo. There was some really funny things in there, but other than that, we don't really. All the other gods don't much factor into this film other than Zeus, who we believe to be dead up until maybe the end credit scene. So I'll get into that in a minute. Um, and the other thing is I like that Gore kidnaps the children to trap Thor into coming to get him. I think everything that happened in the Shadow Realm, which is really funny that they call it the Shadow Realm, it's just really well done. I love the aesthetic of like this realm being so dark that it sucks out the color out of everything. So the only time we see color sometimes is when like Thor or Valkyrie power up, which we've seen a little bit in the trailer. So that was a lot of fun. The aesthetic of it, the look, all the shadows that Christian Bale commands, the shadow monsters, all that stuff. I thought it was really, really cool. And the fights were very well done. There's some CGI that looks a little bit wonky sometimes, especially when I think we saw it in the trailer when Thor puts on that helmet, the new helmet that we see, because he keeps that armor for most of the movie, but he doesn't even wear the helmet as much. So yeah, the helmet's kind of goofy. I do love the callback to the comics, his old armor, where he wears like a helmet that covers his full face. Really well done. Also, like I talked about the device of Korg telling this epic Viking tale, and he tells it multiple times, right? He begins talking about Thor, and then he recaps everything at the end with this actually being a story of the mighty Thor, Jane Foster, who ends up sacrificing herself at the door of eternity to compel Christian Bale, um, Gore the God Butcher, to do the right thing. So really, really fun stuff there. Like really, really well done. I do think it's interesting that we introduced this new character. So we know that Gore lost his daughter, and his wish at the end was to bring her back instead of destroying the gods, which pretty much saves all the gods. So that was really interesting, and it set up an interesting dynamic because now both Gore or both Gore's daughter, she loses her dad because he dies, and then also Thor loses Jane Foster because she also dies. But now Thor is kind of in charge of raising this little girl. which brings us back to the title. And I really think it's funny that both of the Thor movies that Taika Waititi has directed, they really are telling you, like, the title is referring to exactly the end of the movie. Ragnarok ends with Ragnarok happening, and then Love and Thunder ends with uh, Thor racing this little girl. She's love, he's thunder. So very much like, pay attention to the title if Waititi does another movie. So yeah, overall, really enjoyed the movie. Now let's talk about that one in the first end credit scene. I think we've already discussed the second one in Valhalla, which is a nice moment. I wish maybe we had seen maybe Anthony Hopkins or Freya, like some of the other characters, maybe the Warriors 3. So, but so we see that Zeus isn't dead. He was not killed with his bolt, but he was hurt, and he is angry, and he's going to be a vengeful god. So we are introduced to Hercules, which is really really cool. I'm very excited to see where that goes. I don't know. I will make another video on what I think they could do with that. But yeah, I really enjoyed that scene. I think it was very well done. So very excited to see what happens with that. But overall, I enjoyed this movie. I don't know that it's. I still think Thor Ragnarok is probably a better movie, but this movie, I think, especially Belle's performance, really highlight, like, it really raises the bar for me, like, in as far as like how much I like it. So I'll have to go back and re-rank all my MCU films, and make sure I'll do that. I'll share that on social media if you guys follow along. But yeah, this has been a lot of fun. I really enjoyed this movie. If you're watching at this point, thank you so much for watching. We'll do more of this stuff in the future. Like I said, we'll probably come up with a few more videos of where we could go from here. We're also going to be covering a lot of the stuff coming out of San Diego Comic-Con. We know Marvel's heading there. So as always, thanks for watching, everyone. Remember to share, like, subscribe, hit the bell so you know when we go live. That is most Sundays, 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. Stay tuned because we have more comic reviews, trailer reactions, TV recaps, all that fun stuff in the channel. So as always, thanks for watching, everyone. Bye-bye.